Let me make sure everything looks right before we begin. I'll explain everything in just a second. Damn, my hair is all messed up and everything. It'd be like that sometimes though. Let's see. Mic check.
What do you do when you just can't figure something out? For zombies, it's pretty simple. They can just keep bashing their brains.
Okay, everything looks good to me. Alright, so here's what I'm trying to do today. Um, this is what I had planned. I wanted to go through some of the Coursera courses that caught my attention. The first one being learning how to learn. Let me see if I can show the course page. Powerful mental tools to help you master tough subjects. So I have watched like 10-15% of this course already, but my problem was I could never consistently watch this and finish it. So I figured it'd be cool to do it on stream, and it's going to be a great learning experience for me and possibly for somebody else too, which is what excited me a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a go, and if anything pops up in the chat, that'd be pretty cool. But let's just see where it goes. And this is module one, the first video. So we'll just let it go.
What do you do when you just can't figure something out? For zombies, it's pretty simple. They can just keep bashing their brains against the wall. But living brains are a lot more complex. It turns out, though, that if you understand just a little bit of some of the basics about how your brain works, you can learn more easily and be less frustrated. Researchers have found that we have two fundamentally different modes of thinking. Here, I'll call them the focused and the diffuse modes. We're familiar with focusing. It's when you concentrate intently on something you're trying to learn or to understand. But we're not so familiar with diffuse thinking. Turns out that this more relaxed thinking style is related to a set of neural resting states. We're going to use an analogy of the game of pinball to help us understand these two thinking modes. Incidentally, both metaphor and analogy are really helpful when you're trying to learn something new. If you remember, a pinball game works by you pull back on the plunger, release it, and a ball goes boinking out, bouncing around on the rubber bumpers, and that's how you get points. So, here's your brain with the ears right here and the eyes looking upwards, and we can lay that pinball machine right down inside it. So there you go. There's the analogy for the focus mode. The blue rubber bumpers here are placed very close to one another. See the orange pattern here towards the top? It represents a familiar thought pattern, maybe involving something simple like adding some numbers, or more advanced ideas like literary criticism or calculating electromagnetic flux. You think a thought, boom, it takes off, moves smoothly along, and then as it's bouncing around on the bumpers, you're able to figure out the problem you're trying to solve or the concept you're trying to understand that's related to something you're rather familiar with. So look at how that thought moves smoothly around on the fuzzy underlying orange neural pathway. In some sense, it's as if it's traveling along a familiar, nicely paved road. But what if the problem you're working on needs new ideas or approaches, concepts you haven't thought of before? That's symbolized here by this neural pattern towards the bottom of the pinball machine area. But if you haven't thought that thought before, you don't even know how that pattern feels or where it is. So how are you going to develop that new thought in the first place? Not only do you not know where the pattern is or what the pattern looks like, but see all the rubber bumpers that are blocking your access, whatever direction you do decide to move in? To get to this new thought pattern, you need a different way of thinking, and that's represented here by the diffuse mode. Look at how widely spaced the rubber bumpers are. Thought takes off. Look at how it moves widely, bounces around. It can travel a long way before being interrupted by hitting a bumper. In this diffuse mode of thinking, you can look at things broadly from a very different big picture perspective. You can make new neural connections traveling along new pathways. You can't focus in as tightly as you often need to finalize any sort of problem solving or understand the finest aspects of a concept, but you can at least get to the initial place you need to be in to home in on a solution. Now, as far as neuroscientists know right now, you're either in the focus mode or the diffuse mode of thinking. It seems you can't be in both thinking modes at the same time.
Okay. I'm gonna stop right there and take some notes because I already have some things. How do you get it? This, then I'm not having this like that. Oh God, that looks not good. Okay, I'm just going to alternate them. So I have it like that, like this. Learning how to learn. Create another page in here called Module 1. And then the title will be the title of the video. This is Notion, by the way. It's a great note-taking tool. Introduction to focus and diffuse modes. So I'm just going to put some notes in here that I noticed as I was watching. So your brain can't be in focused and diffuse mode at the same time. It is always in one of the modes. And what I grasp about focus mode is when you problem solve, find patterns, get to the, how should I put this? Get to the nitty gritty of a concept, which be able to understand it fully. And diffuse mode is when, as she put it, you explore new concepts that you never have thought of before. You're unable to um, get into a deep understanding of the concept. So the way I understand it, diffuse mode lays the foundation and for learning a new concept, and then focus mode uh, allows you to learn the concept fully and perfect any shortcomings. That's at least how I understand it. Let's see.
Big picture perspective. You can make new neural
Diffuse mode gives you the big picture perspective, and focus mode is like the on perspective. Hopefully the keyboard is not too loud. Sorry about that.
Connections, traveling along new pathways. You can't focus in as tightly as you often need to finalize any sort of problem solving or understand the finest aspects of a concept, but you can at least get to the initial place you need to be in to home in on a solution. Now, as far as neuroscientists know right now, you're either in the focused mode or the diffuse mode of thinking. It seems you can't be in both thinking modes at the same time. It's kind of like a coin. You can see either one side or the other side of the coin, but not both sides at the same time.
That's a good way to put
Being
it too.
in one mode seems to limit your access to the other mode's way of thinking. In our next video, we're going to see how some extraordinary people access their diffuse ways of thinking to do great things. Thanks for learning about learning. I'm Barbara Oakley.
Cool stash. Oh, and they got some questions as well. Like the statements that fit best to diffuse as opposed to focused mode of thinking. Using a different analogy from the video, the diffuse mode could be thought of as a flashlight set so that it casts its light very broadly, but not very strongly in any one area. Yeah. The type of thinking you need to do when you're trying to understand something new, the type of intense concentration. Nope. Pinball machine that has bumpers which are very tightly grouped. Nope. As the video specifically mentioned, this is the type of thinking that hard works or. Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, alright. Okay, that's video number 1. Number 2.
Welcome to Learning How to Learn. Your brain has amazing abilities, but it didn't come with an instruction manual. Perhaps the greatest gift that our brains give us is the ability to learn new things every day. On my way here, I thought about the journey that will take us to the last day of the course and how much we will learn along the way. Our goal is to give you a better understanding of how we learn so that your brain becomes a better learner.
They're reading off of a sheet of
These
paper.
insights are based on solid research from neuroscience,
They're
from
scientists.
cognitive psychology,
They're not speakers.
and also from dozens of leading instructors and practitioners in difficult-to-learn subjects. Whether you're a novice or an expert, you will find great new ways to improve your skills and techniques for learning, especially related to math and science.
This course is meant to help you reframe how you think about learning, to help reduce your frustration. These ideas are struggling
You'll see.
more easily. You're learning.
Welcome to Learning How to Learn. Your brain.
Alright, so that's just like a little, introduction to the course structure. Don't really care about that. Here's some books that they recommend. I don't really care about that. Nope. Education for credit. Don't really care about that. Alright, here's what we're looking for.
So let's take a look at some famous people from history who used their different thinking modes to help them with their problem solving. If you look at that guy right there, he was Salvador Dali, a very well-known surrealist painter of the 20th century.
Damn, bro, this guy freaky. But let's see his paintings. Oh shit, he made this. That's pretty famous. Guy was out there. Definitely on acid. Alright, anyways. Salvador Dali.
He was the very definition of a wild and crazy guy. You can see him here with his pet ocelot, Babu. Dali used to have an interesting technique to help him come up with his fantastically creative surrealist paintings. He'd relax in a chair and let his mind go free often still vaguely thinking about what he had previously been focusing on. He'd have a key in his hand, dangling it just above the floor, and as he would slip into his dreams, falling asleep, the key would fall from his hand and the clatter would wake him up
Hmm.
just in time so he could gather up those diffuse mode connections and ideas in his mind, and off he'd go back into the focus mode, bringing with him the new connections he'd made while in the diffuse mode.
Good.
Now, you might think, well, that's okay for an artist. But what does it have to do with more scientific or mathematical kinds of thinking? Well, if you look down here,
Edison?
this guy was Thomas Edison, one of the most brilliant inventors ever. According to legend, what Edison used to do was he'd sit and relax in his chair, holding ball bearings in his hand. He'd relax away, letting his mind run free, although it would often noodle back in a much more relaxed way to what he'd been focusing on previously. When Edison would fall asleep, the ball bearings would drop and clatter to the ground just as with Dolly, and it would wake Edison up, and off he'd go with his ideas from the diffuse mode, ready to take them into the focus mode and build on them. So the bottom line is, when you're learning something new, especially something that's a little more difficult, your mind needs to be able to go back and forth between the two different learning modes. That's what helps you learn effectively. You might think of it as a bit analogous to building your strength by lifting weights. You would never plan to compete in a weightlifting competition by waiting until the very day before a meet and then spending that entire day working out like a fiend. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. To gain muscular structure, you need to do a little work every day, gradually allowing your muscles to grow. Similarly, to build neural structure, you need to do a little work every day, gradually allowing yourself to grow a neural scaffold to hang your thinking on. A little bit every day, and that's the trick. In summary, then, we learned that analogies provide powerful techniques for learning. We learned about how the brain's two different thinking modes, focused and diffuse, each helps us learn, but in very different ways.
Oh shit, what happened?
We need to do a little techniques for learning. We learned about how the brain's two different thinking modes, focused and diffuse, each helps us learn, but in very different ways. And finally, we learned that learning something difficult can take time. Your brain needs to alternate its ways of learning as it grapples with and assimilates the new material. Thanks for learning about learning. I'm Barbara Oakley.
Here's a question. When do you find your mind relaxing somewhat and getting away from focused attention? When taking a shower, riding on a bus, going for a walk? Type your answer below. Alright, apart from what they've already said, I gotta think. What else is it that lets my mind just wander? Hmm. It, back when I used to draw, drawing has that effect too. Like when you're drawing without any intention and you're just scribbling and you're letting your mind wander into something that's, you know, could be whatever. Drawing could lead to your mind getting really relaxed because it is a sort of meditation. You could put meditation in here too, of course, but that's all about relaxing your mind. Uh, Let me think. Being a passenger in a car definitely helps too, but they already said riding a bus, so I can't really say that again. You know what it is? I mean, this is kind of silly, but say GTA 5, right? You're just driving mindlessly in single player, um, and or riding a bicycle, something slower, so you don't really have to think about bobbing and weaving. You're just letting your mind just wander. Playing a driving game without any objectives. I'll put that. I mean, that's kind of unique. Uh, what else is it where you're not using your attention too much? I want to put one more. Mm, you're just letting your mind wander. Honestly, bro, when I used to be like this doesn't happen as much now, but when I used to be in school and you'd be sitting in a chair right next to the window and you just peer out the window for like 10, 15 minutes, that was the most relaxing thing. Peering out the window in 10 to 15 minutes. I think this is a good list. I'd go with this. I mean, these are unique enough. And yeah, dude, this is like I had to think about this for a second, but this is like a good strategy in my opinion. Actually, even today, like so my sleep schedule has been all messed up. And I woke up this morning, cleaned up my room a little bit, and dude, I just sat on my desk, fully opened up the window because the wind was blowing nice, and I was just writing random shit. I should put journaling in here too. Journaling, and as I was journaling, I'm just looking out the window, and every time I look out the window, some new thought comes into my head, and I just write it down. Yeah, yeah, that's something that I gotta keep in mind whenever stressed out. Just look out the window for a little bit. There's actually a study done on how nature can help relieve stress. Research shows that a 90-minute walk in nature lowers activity in the part of the brain linked to negative thoughts. So, I mean, it's proven. So, right out my window is some trees and some green shit, nature, grass, whatever, right? And if I do look at it for long enough, it does alleviate stress in some way. So that is interesting. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna put. I think these are decent answers. All right, that's another video done. But I want to take some notes on. Actually, let me write down what I put first. How I enter diffuse mode. Is peering the right word? Look keenly or with difficulty at someone or something. The two towers. Peering out the window. Yeah, it is the right word. Okay. Peering out the window. Playing driving games without objective like GTA. And what they already put walks, showers, and passenger car, riding as a passenger. unique examples. Holding keys or ball bearings in your hand while sitting there, slowly falling asleep till the object falls from the hand and hits the ground, waking you up, putting you back in focus mode. What a run-on sentence. Alright, that's basically what I got from this video. But pretty interesting stuff. It got me thinking about some shit that I haven't thought of in a while.
Welcome to Learning How to Learn. My name is Terry Sanofsky. Let me introduce you to your brain. First, some brain surgery. We take off the skull and take out the brain.
Damn.
This brain weighs 3 pounds, but it consumes 10 times more energy by weight than the rest of the body. A very expensive organ. It is the most complex device in the known universe. All of your thoughts, your hopes, your fears are in the neurons in this brain. We prize our abilities to do chess and math, but it takes years of practice to acquire these skills, and digital computers are much better at it than we are. It came as a surprise to discover that what we do so well and take for granted, like seeing, hearing, reaching, running, are all much more complex problems than we thought, and way beyond the capability of the world's fastest digital computers. What this illustrates is that we are not consciously aware of how our brains work. Brains evolved to help us navigate complex environments, and most of the heavy lifting is done below our level of consciousness. And we don't need to know how it's done in order to survive. Psychologists who study the unconscious mind have found that its influences include thought processes, memory, emotions, and motivation. We are only aware of a very small fraction of all the activity in the brain, so we need to rely on brain imaging techniques to guide us. Here is the activity map of someone's brain who was asked to lie still at rest in a brain imaging scanner. On the left is the side view of the brain, and on the right is the view from the midline. The colors indicate brain areas whose activities were highly correlated, as shown by the time courses below, color-coded to the brain areas. The blue areas are highly active when the subject interacts with the world, but turn off in the resting state. The red-orange areas are most active in the resting state and are called the default mode network. Other brain areas are also more active when you are resting, and these areas can be further divided into groups of areas that have common patterns of activity. This is a new and intense area of research, and it will take time to sort out all the resting states and their functions. There are a million
This shit boring. I'm keep
billion synapses in your brain where memories are stored. The old view of the brain is that once it matures, the strengths of synapses can be adjusted by learning, but the pattern of connectivity does not change much unless there is brain damage. But now we know that brain connectivity is dynamic and remains so even after it matures. With new optical techniques for imaging single connections between neurons called synapses, we can see constant turnover with new synapses being formed and others disappearing. This raises a puzzle. In the face of so much turnover, how do memories stay stable over so many years? This is a picture of one dendritic branch on a neuron which receives inputs from other neurons. The synapses are on the spiny knobs coming off the dendrite. On the top, the dendrite was imaged before learning. The same dendrite is shown below after learning and after sleep.
this shit right here, and then there's a new synapse, I think he said. And there's also these little things coming off. So This is what happens in your brain when you're learning shit. These synapses grow and they strengthen the more you practice something. I guess these are strengthened synapses.
Synapses that are newly formed together on the same branch are indicated by the white arrowheads. You are looking down into the brain of a live animal. This is really a fantastic new technique. Synapses are less than a micron in diameter.
Damn.
In comparison, a human hair is around 20 microns in diameter. This new technique allows us to see how learning changes the structure of the brain with a resolution that is near the limit of light microscopy. This illustrates that, intriguingly, you are not the same person you were after a night's sleep or even a nap. It is as if you went to bed with one brain and woke up with an upgrade. This is a better deal than you can get from Microsoft. Shakespeare, the great English poet, already knew this. Here is Macbeth lamenting his insomnia. Sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life sore labor's bath, balm of her minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. Here, Shakespeare is making an analogy between knitted clothes and sleep that knits up the loose threads of experience and concerns during the day and weaves them into the tapestry.
This is just a fun fact
Because you may
video,
ask
man.
yourself, how does the brain do this? A good place to find out more about
Like, it's cool, but that shit is so boring. It's nothing practical. Yeah, but that was one cool thing he said though. Like you go to sleep with one brain and wake up with the upgrade. Need a reliable internet connection to submit my quiz. Okay, this is all telling me. Google shit. I'm just doesn't even matter. And I think one of these was false if I remember correctly. No, but go through all of this shit. Wow. Okay. Nope. I don't want to know what you do.
Everybody has some issues with procrastination.
Let me get the new skill module 1.
Because if you're working on something, it means you're not working on a lot of other things. But some people have more issues with procrastination than others. In this video, we're going to give you a little insight into procrastination, why it arises, and a powerful little tool to help you address it. When you look at something that you really rather not do, it seems that you activate the areas of your brain associated with pain. Your brain, naturally enough, looks for a way to stop that negative stimulation by switching your attention to something else. But here's the trick. Researchers discovered that not long after people might start actually working on what they didn't like, that neural discomfort disappeared.
That is true.
So it seems what
I've had
happens
that.
when you procrastinate is something like this. First, you observe and get a cue about something that causes a tiny bit of unease. You don't like it. So to make the sensation go away, you turn your attention from whatever caused that unease. You turn towards something more pleasant. The result, you feel happier,
Yeah.
temporarily. We're going to talk more about procrastination later on, but in the meantime, I'm going to let you in on a handy little mental tool. This tool is called the Pomodoro. It was invented by Francesco Cirillo in the early 1980s. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. The timer you use often looks like a tomato, and really, a timer is all there is to this elegant little technique. All you need to do is set a timer to 25 minutes. Turn off all interruptions and then focus. That's it. Most anybody can focus for 25 minutes. The only last important thing is to give yourself a little reward when you're done. A few minutes of web surfing, a cup of coffee, or a bite of chocolate, even just stretching or chatting mindlessly, allowing your brain to enjoyably.
I'm gonna pause this right now to start Pomodoro. There is this website called Focus, and you could just start a Pomodoro here, and it will automatically give you short breaks and long breaks. So every 3 Pomodoros, you get or for every Pomodoro, you get 5 minutes of short break. So you do 25 minutes, and then after that, you get 5 minute break. And after 3 Pomodoros, you get a long break of 15 minutes. This is a good strategy not to fatigue yourself whenever you're working on something. And it's something I'm trying to use more. Pomo Focus is pretty cool for that because you could sign in and set tasks. So like, I could set my task to be stream, and I could put like 5 Pomodoros, save that. Doesn't mean I have to do 5 Pomodoros, but it's just for my tracking. And I could start this. Did I allow it? What the hell happened? Ah, whatever. But after 25 minutes, it will give me a short break. So this is a nice thing to have.
Change its focus for a while. You'll find that using the Pomodoro technique is very effective. It's a little like doing an intense 25-minute workout at a mental gym, followed by some mental relaxation. Give it a try. Next, we're going to see how one very shy 10-year-old changed her brain.
This video suggests using the Pomodoro technique 25 minutes of steady concentration with no disruptions. Everybody is different, of course. What in particular would you want to make sure is turned off or unavailable to ensure you retain your focus when you do a Pomodoro? I mean, apart from the obvious ones like phone or whatnot, I gotta think, what else is there that distracts the hell out of you? Bro, sometimes Windows notification. Windows 10, those little pop-ups that you get, they take me out. And job messages, like from on your computer, if you have like some chatting app and you get messages for your job, that's annoying. That takes me out, like ruins my concentration. What else? Yeah, the other ones are pretty obvious, like phone, TV, music that are inconsistent. Music, instrumental, uh, side noise when window is open. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Yep, that's me when I was 10. I loved animals, handicrafts, and dreaming. Back then, I was the belligerent queen of anti-math. I neglected, ignored, flunked, and downright hated math and science all through grade school, middle school, and high school. It's strange to realize I'm now a professor of engineering. I enlisted in the Army right out of high school to study language at the Defense Language Institute. That's me at 18, looking very nervous and very focused while throwing a hand grenade. I only started to study math and science when I was 26 years old, after I got out of the military. At first, it was really hard. There were all these quick thinkers in my classes who seemed to get everything a lot easier and faster than me. Sometimes I'd take a break for a few months. I'd go out and work as a Russian translator on Soviet trawlers. That's me up in the Bering Sea. Then I'd come back to school and try and learn some more. As I gained technical know-how, new doors started opening up for me. I ended up working as a radio operator at the South Pole Station in Antarctica.
Damn.
That's where I met my husband. I always say I had to go to the end of the earth to meet that man. Here he is after only 10 minutes outside at minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit with a 60-mile-an-hour wind. The wind chill takes it off the charts. Now, I wasn't natural in math and science, not at all. The way I succeeded was to gradually begin to figure out some tricks. But let's back up a step. In the greater scheme of all the different careers and disciplines that people can pursue, why are those involving math and science sometimes a bit more challenging? We think it may be related, at least in part, to the abstract nature of the ideas. I mean, let's take a cow, for example, out standing in a field. If you have the word cow, you can point right to a cow to learn what that word means. Even the letters for the word cow, C-O-W, are roughly analogous to sounds that they stand for. But for mathematical ideas, there's often no analogous thing you can point to. There are no plus signs standing out in a field, no multiplication, division, or other kinds of things that can directly equate to many mathematical or scientific terms. These terms are more abstract, in other words. Well, you might say, yeah, but what about words like love or zest or hope? Those are all abstract. Yes, they are. But the thing is, these abstract terms are often related to our emotions. We can feel our emotions even if we can't see and point to concrete examples, like we could with the cow. This means it's important to practice with ideas and concepts you're learning in math and science, just like anything else you're learning, to help enhance and strengthen the neural connections you're making during the learning process. You can see on your left here the symbolic representation of a thought pattern. Neurons become linked together through repeated use. The more abstract something is, the more important it is to practice in order to bring those ideas into reality for you. Even if the ideas you are dealing with are abstract, the neural thought patterns you are creating are real and concrete. At least they are if you build and strengthen them through practice. Here's a way to picture what's going on. When you first begin to understand something, for example, how to solve a problem, the neural pattern you form is there, but very weak, kind of like the faint pattern at the top of our pinball machine analogy here. When you solve the problem again, fresh from the start, without looking at the solution, you begin deepening that neural pattern, kind of like the darker pattern you see here in the middle. And when you have the problem down cold, so you can go over each step completely and concisely in your mind without even looking at the solution, and you've even had practice on related problems, why then the pattern is like this dark, firm pattern you can see towards the bottom of the pinball frame. Practice makes permanent. When you're learning, what you want to do is study something. Study it hard by focusing intently. Then take a break, or at least change your focus to something different for a while. During this time of seeming relaxation, your brain's diffuse mode has a chance to work away in the background and help you out with your conceptual understanding. Your, your neural mortar, in some sense, has a chance to
Well,
dry.
I'm gonna need that
If you
Pomodoro to
don't do
kick in
this,
ASAP.
if instead you learn by cramming, your knowledge base will look more like this, all in a jumble with everything confused, a poor foundation. If you have problems with procrastination, that's when you want to use the Pomodoro, that brief timer. This helps you get going using brief periods each day of focused attention that will help you start building the neural patterns you need to be more successful in learning more challenging materials. Next up, we'll be talking about chunking, the vital essence of how you grasp and master key ideas. I'm Barbara Oakley.
Jeez. All right. I've been streaming for 46 minutes, so I am just gonna take I'm gonna take a long break. Cool. But let me just stretch for a second, but I'm still here. Some push-ups. I had some interesting questions. First brain surgery.
Photographs reveals the faces of earliest patients of modern brain surgery.
I was just curious watching this,
A
talking
glimpse
about
into a
neurology.
fascinating chapter of America's medical history. And now, the images have been revealed by Yale University. The haunting images were discovered in a
Alright, bro. Speed it up. Oh shit, nah, they gonna be talking about children and stuff? No, I'm good.
Here we go. Our book. I think that the first big question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is the difference between psychology and neuroscience today?
Give
Isn't
a
correct.
fuck
Because
about
our
that.
technology
Come
for
on.
studying biology has advanced so much in just the last 70 years or so.
Brother,
But
please.
neuroscience has
ChatGPT would be better off answering these questions. When did the study of brain start in human history? Study of brain has a long and complex history dating back thousands of years. Here's a brief overview of key milestones. Ancient Egypt, 3000 BCE, mummification practices. So ancient Egyptians were among the first to document the brain, and during mummification they removed the brain, which they considered less important than the heart. However, they did not fully understand its function. So is it true the Egyptians I don't know if I heard this when I was young. Remove the brain through the nose. Damn. Yes, it is true. Egyptians removed the brain through the nose during the process of mummification. This practice was part of their what is embalming? Preservation of a corpse, which aimed to preserve the body for the afterlife. Oh, I don't know if I want to know this. So they inserted a hook instrument, long hooked instrument often made of bronze, which was inserted through the nostrils. This tool was used to break through the ethmoid bone, a thin bone at the top of the nasal cavity, to access the brain. The brain was then liquefied by stirring and breaking it up into small pieces. Liquefied brain matter was extracted through the nostrils, often by tilting the head to allow gravity. Damn! Oh, so they turned the brain into a soup, and then they just they just brought the head forward, and everything would just come out. And then, okay, after the brain was removed, the cranial cavity was sometimes filled with resin, linen, or other materials to maintain the shape of the head. Wait, why would the shape of the head change? What about the skull preserving it? Shape of the head could change after removal of the brain due to the loss of internal support structures that the brain provides within the skull. The brain, although soft, occupies a significant portion of the cranial cavity and helps maintain the shape of the skull. Ah, fuck. So your face would just get mushed over time. Hmm. Damn, ChatGPT. Alright, so who was after the Egyptians? I don't think it follows a strict chronology, but it's just talking about, yeah, it's just talking about key milestones. And the next people to do it were the Alchemaean of Croton. Earliest known figures to propose that the brain was the seat of thought. Really? He's the earliest person to think of brain as a thinker.
Alcmaeon of Croton was a prominent figure in ancient Greek philosophy and medicine. He is credited with making a groundbreaking discovery that changed the way people understood the human mind and soul.
I'm
Alcmaeon's
watching a
observations
fucking
led him to
AI
conclude that
video.
the mind and soul are located in the brain, a concept that was revolutionary at the time. His work
Nah, bro, I'm good. But that's pretty crazy. So this is the dude that discovered that the brain is where we think from. That's where ideas come from. Tell me more about this Alcmaeon fellow. He was an early Greek philosopher and physician who lived around the 5th century BCE. He is often considered one of the pioneers in the study of human anatomy and physiology. He's perhaps most famous for being one of the earliest thinkers to assert that the brain is the central organ responsible for perception and intelligence. So the earlier perception was the heart is where thoughts came from. I didn't know that. I guess that's where all the metaphors come from. Section and observation. Alcmaeon is, man. How do you pronounce his name?
Alcmean. Alcmean.
Alc- Alcmaeon. Alright. Alcmaeon is believed to have practiced dissection, possibly of animals, to study anatomy. His empirical approach helped him make observations about the human body's workings, particularly regarding the sensory organs and the brain. He proposed that health was a result of the balance of various bodily elements, a concept that prefigured the later Hippocratic theory of the four humors. He believed that disease was caused by an imbalance or disproportion of these elements. What are the four humors? I don't know anything about that. Concept of the four humors is a cornerstone of ancient and medieval medicine. Blood, film, yellow bile, black bile. The four humors theory health was believed to be the result of a perfect balance among the four humors. Influence and legacy theory was influenced by earlier Greek thinkers, particularly. Oh my fucking god! Now who is this guy? Proves that the world is made up of four basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire. So he created Avatar, bro. The humors were seen as bodily manifestations of these elements, although the theory of the four humors was eventually supplanted by more modern medical understandings, like the periodic table, I guess. It left a lasting impact on medical terminology and concepts. Okay. Ian was the first to create theories of the brain. Who was the first to experiment on the human brain? The surgical procedure. Your bad brain. Shit, I don't know what to put. Ancient Alchemian was among the first to propose theories. Earliest known surgical procedures on the brain date back. Oh shit. Okay. Trepanation or trephination is the earliest known surgical procedure involving the human skull and brain. Oh fuck. It involves drilling or scraping a hole into the skull to relieve pressure, treat head injuries, or perhaps even to address mental illness. Drill a fucking hole to relieve pressure? Evidence of trepanation has been found in prehistoric human skulls from various cultures around the world, including in ancient Peru, Africa, and Europe. Exact reasons for trepanation in ancient times are not fully understood, but is believed to have been used to treat head trauma, epilepsy, migraines, or mental disorders. Remarkably, many trepanned skulls show signs of healing, indicating that patients often survive the procedure. Trepanation is not credited to any one individual, but rather appears to have been a widespread practice in various ancient cultures. Damn, bro, imagine having a hole drilled through your skull because you had a migraine. Galen, Greek physician, he performed brain surgery on living humans. He conducted extensive anatomical studies and experiments on animals. His observations, particularly on the cranial nerves and brain ventricles, influenced medical knowledge for centuries. That's crazy. Fucking hell, bro. Hole drill through your brain. That's wild. What was the first surgery gone wrong? Related to the brain. Dr. James Marion Sims in the mid 19th century. Sims is often referred to as the father of modern gynecology. Bro, I'm talking about the brain, not the. But he also performed a series of experimental surgeries and on enslaved. Oh my god. On enslaved women and infants that resulted in significant controversy due to their ethical implications. Bro, the Gestapo called, man. They want to hire you. Well, Sims is primarily known for his gynecological work. He also conducted a surgical procedure on an enslaved infant named Samson, who was born with a condition known as trismus nascentium, neonatal tetanus, which caused severe lockjaw. Relieving the pressure. Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. I changed that sound. Holy crap. Yeah, that's a better noise. Sims attempted a crude form of brain surgery by boring a hole into the skull of the infant to relieve pressure, thinking this would cure the tetanus. Yeah, of course it didn't go as planned. On an infant, bro, come on. It was. I'm not even gonna call him a doctor. It was Mary in charge. Uh, that's crazy, bro. It's amazing to think how far we've come in terms of laws. Like, I'm all for like breaking down rules that are unjustifiable, but when it comes to creating rigid rules to prevent shit like this, I mean, it makes sense why laws exist the way they do and why they're so strict. Because if they weren't, you'd have people like this. Well, you read it with me, so I don't even want to go into the details. That's crazy. All right, I'm gonna watch a few more videos. Um, but I think I use the Pomodoro pretty
When I
well.
look back on my childhood, or I remember some words from Spanish or from Russian, здравствуйте, or I bring to mind one of Maxwell's equations, I'm drawing on portions of my brain involved in long-term memory. But when I'm trying to hold a few ideas in mind to connect them together so I can understand a concept or solve a problem, I'm using my working memory. Obviously, sometimes I'll bring something
Forgot to start the timer.
from my long-term memory into my working memory so I can think about it. So the two types of memory are related. There are lots of different ways to slice our understanding of memory, but for this course on learning, we're going to talk about only these two major memory systems, working memory and long-term memory. Working memory is the part of memory that has to do with what you're immediately and consciously processing in your mind. Your working memory is centered out of the prefrontal cortex, although as we'll see later, there are also connections to other parts of your brain so you can access long-term memories. Researchers used to think that our working memory could hold around 7 items, or chunks, but now it's widely believed that the working memory holds only about 4 chunks of information. We tend to automatically group memory items into chunks, so it seems our working memory is bigger than it actually is. Although your working memory is like a blackboard, it's not a very good blackboard. You often need to keep repeating what you're trying to work with so it stays in your working memory. For example, You'll sometimes repeat a phone number to yourself until you have a chance to write it down. Repetition's needed so that your metabolic vampires, that is, natural dissipating processes, don't suck those memories away. You may find yourself shutting your eyes to keep any other items from intruding into the limited slots of your working memory as you concentrate. So we know that short-term memory is something like an inefficient mental blackboard. The other form of memory, long-term memory, is like a storage warehouse. And just like a warehouse, it's distributed over a big area. Different kinds of long-term memories are stored in different regions of the brain. Research has shown that when you first try to put an item of information in long-term memory, you need to revisit it at least a few times to increase the chances that you'll be able to find it later when you might need it. The long-term memory storage warehouse is immense. It's got room for billions of items. In fact, there can be so many items they can bury each other, so it can be difficult for you to find the information you need unless you practice and repeat at least a few times. Long-term memory is important because it's where you store fundamental concepts and techniques that are often involved in whatever you're learning about. When you encounter something new, you often use your working memory to handle it. If you want to move that information into your long-term memory, it often takes time and practice. To help with this process, use a technique called spaced repetition. This technique involves repeating what you're trying to retain, but what you want to do is space this repetition out. Repeating a new vocabulary word or a problem-solving technique, for example, over a number of days. Extending your practice over several days does make a difference. Research has shown that if you try to glue things into your memory by repeating something 20 times in one evening, for example, it won't stick nearly as well as if you practice it the same number of times over several days. This is like building the brick wall we saw earlier. If you don't leave time for the mortar to dry, that is, time for the synaptic connections to form and strengthen, you won't have a very good structure. And talk about lasting structure. Look at this part of the Acropolis here. Thanks for learning about learning. I'm Barbara Oakley.
The Acropolis. Where is Rome for sure, but space repetition is good because it allows you to create both beautiful and useful spatial patterns, build stronger neural structures by repeating them over a number of days. So Athens. Let's go. Was it like a court? The Acropolis? Most famous as the center of ancient Athens during the classical period. It was a religious center dedicated to the worship of the goddess Athena. Okay, I guess that makes sense.
You might be surprised to learn that just plain being awake creates toxic products in your brain. How does the brain get rid of these poisons? Turns out that when you sleep, your brain cells shrink.
Ready to
This
slump right
causes an
now.
increase in the space between your brain cells. It's like unblocking a stream. Fluid can flow past these cells and wash the toxins out. So sleep, which can sometimes seem like such a waste of time, is actually your brain's way of keeping itself clean and healthy. So let's get right to a critical idea. Taking a test without getting enough sleep means you're operating with a brain that's got little metabolic toxins floating around in it, poisons that make it so you can't think very clearly. It's kind of like trying to drive a car that's got sugar in its gas tank. Doesn't work too well. In fact, getting too little sleep doesn't just make you do worse on tests. Too little sleep over too long of a time can also be associated with all sorts of nasty conditions, including headaches, depression, heart disease, diabetes, and just plain dying earlier. But sleep does more than just allow your brain to wash away toxins. It's actually an important part of the memory and learning process. It seems that during sleep, your brain tidies up ideas and concepts you're thinking about and learning. It erases the less important parts of memories and simultaneously strengthens areas that you need or want to remember. During sleep, your brain also rehearses some of the tougher parts of whatever you're trying to learn, going over and over neural patterns to deepen and strengthen them. Sleep has also been shown to make a remarkable difference in your ability to figure out difficult problems and to understand what you're trying to learn. It's as if the complete deactivation of the conscious you in the prefrontal cortex at the forefront of your brain helps other areas of your brain start talking more easily to one another,
Yo, I
allowing
think
them
I'm
to
done
put
after
together
this one.
the neural solution to your learning task while you're sleeping. Of course, you must also plant the seed for your diffuse mode by first doing focused mode work. If you're going over what you're learning right before you take a nap or going to sleep for the evening, you have an increased chance of dreaming about it. If you go even further and set it in
I've
mind
had
that
that
you
before.
want to dream about the material, it seems to improve your chances of dreaming about it still further. Dreaming about what you're studying can substantially enhance your ability to understand. It somehow consolidates your memories into easier to grasp chunks. And now, time for a little sleep.
Dude, I got more work to do after this. Allows the brain to wash away metabolic toxins. Sleep is for the weak. Allows the brain to strengthen important parts of the memories, even as it erases less important. Memories. Allows the brain a chance to rehearse difficult material. Makes a remarkable difference in your ability to figure out difficult problems and to understand it. I don't know about this one. Shit. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm getting ready to slump. I don't think anybody's watching, so. This is a quick stream, but. Oh crap. Do we only have. No, we got a couple more videos. Yeah, we got a couple more stuff, so. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a stream here. I was hoping to finish Module 1 now, but. Yo, it's too much information to take in. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But I'll be back. Probably not tomorrow because I'm working late. But Thursday, maybe Thursday. But I'm gonna try to make a habit of doing this on stream because this is a good way for me to learn shit too. Anyways, peace out.